Okay, Janine, you've been part of the Egypt Oral History internship, and could you say what's your full name and where are you at school and what are you studying?
Janine Hamachungiro. I'm a third-year poli-sci student, and I'm part of the Loyola School for Diversity and Sustainability.
Yeah, and so you were one of the first interns I had here at Concordia, and what did you think about the internship?
Overall, the internship was really pleasant. I was able to familiarize myself with oral history and transcribing and the whole process behind creating the oral history project.
Was transcribing pleasant? Now be honest.
It wasn't as bad.
Well, and hopefully the transcribing can be challenging at times,
right.
But the subject matter, I think
was very interesting.
You said you found it interesting. Now, what was interesting? What was interesting about the interviews that you did?
I think what I found most interesting was getting, a primary account of what actually happened throughout the revolution on certain specific important days. So that was very interesting, and also getting
like what?
Information. Like on May 7th, what day was it? February 17th?
The revolution succeeded on February 11th, 2011.
Okay.
Yeah. January 28th was a day of rage that Mona talked a lot about.
The Day of Rage, for instance, with Mona Masir's interview, where she described how basically her activities throughout the revolution, how they crossed over the Canal Bridge, and how they were abducted and brought to a black side. So just getting an inside view on what exactly happened was really interesting.
And so Mona was on the Nile Bridge during this infamous battle between the police and protesters trying to get to the square. I think she said at one point she thought she was going to die. She was just, and then you mentioned she was abducted. She was arrested with 30+ other people from the Hisham Mubarak Law Center. Yep, that was February 3rd, 2011. You chose to do a lot of women interviewees. What was that like, and what did you find from that?
Initially, I was more geared towards the female interviews because I was surprised to learn that there was a large amount of women staff at the Hisham Mubarak Law Center. So when I was made aware of that fact, I told myself I'll take this on, and it was just very interesting seeing women take on a leadership role. You had my first interviewee.
Was that Noel?
Noel Hasni, who had been there for over 20 years.
Yeah. A lawyer.
A lawyer, yes. So what did I find most interesting? Well, all the interviews were interesting, but I guess just the mere fact that these were females that have been, working within law. And I have my own law aspirations, so it was very nice to see, especially in Egypt.
Yeah. And Noel was probably one of the first women lawyers, I'm imagining, in Egypt, and working a lot on women's issues.
Right.
Yeah, domestic violence and family issues, divorce rights, child custody rights. Way before people were talking about that in a mainstream kind of way. So you mentioned that the female lawyers clicks with you personally. So what's your career path, and how does this internship fit within it?
Well, right now I'm in the process of applying for law school for fall of 2015.
Yeah.
So this internship basically gave me exposure to human rights litigation, and especially how it's done in developing countries or less democratic regions such as Egypt. So that was very interesting to learn that there was a lot of people active prior to the revolution in human rights litigation. Right,
for years, getting arrested, protesting. And you have an interesting international background yourself. You have your foot in many countries. What's your background?
So I'm Rwandan, that's my origins, but I grew up in Washington, D.C., and I moved here to Montreal 3 years ago. So I've been living in Canada for 3 years now.
Yeah. In 20 years, what do you think you'll remember about this internship?
The revolution.
Yeah.
Right. because not only was it, you know, an oral history on the Hisham Mubarak blossom, it ended up being oral history on the revolution itself. So it went beyond, right, how Egyptian lawyers conducted human rights, litigation. It was about the actual revolution, so that's what will stick with me.
Yeah,
right.
And you had your little contribution to
Right.
documenting the revolution.
Transcription, yes.
And it wasn't even a little contribution. I think you got more interviews done than anyone, because you typed very quickly and you did it over 2 semesters and you kept coming back. So thank you for all that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, just thank you.
I'm going to be curious to see what you're doing with human rights in 20 years, so you'll have to get in touch with me.
I will, absolutely.
Okay,
all right,
thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.